Here are 3 very easy ways to fix sibilance and harsh frequencies in your songs. So right now I'm working on a client mix for this Jersey club rap track I'm going to play right now.
Rose from the Garden State. I just been trying to grow some. Shorty ride it like a soldier. Booty bubble like soda. Way overseas, they know me.
You can tell there's a lot of S's, there's a lot of T sounds, there's a lot of harsh frequencies and sibilance that we definitely want to tame in this mix. So the first tool I highly recommend for anyone that's on Ableton is you use a utility track. Rather than, drawing in automation directly from the audio track volume, this allows you to add a secondary volume meter that allows you to really pinpoint and make changes without having to affect the overall signal as a whole. Main reason why this is really good is because if, for example, I want to boost the entire lead vocal, rather than having to manually draw all the automation up again, I can just turn up the track volume instead. Makes it a lot easier on myself. And now if I want to make any small changes, any sibilance, any weird mouth clicks or anything like that, I have a separate utility track to fix all that information. Just double checking right here. If I turn off the utility, you can check out this hook in the introduction. You can see all the changes that we're going to be making.
Back then they try to tell me I'm crazy. These days they see me shine, but they still acting shady.
So without the utility on, you can notice there's a lot of sibilance that's still building up, even if we have a de-esser on the actual vocal chain. I'm going to just pinpoint some sections right here that we can take another listen to. This one right here.
They try to tell me I'm crazy.
That tell me, if we turn off the utility, it's a little bit too harsh on the ears.
They try to tell me I'm crazy. These days they see me shine, but they still acting shady.
Another good way to pinpoint sibilance is any of the waveforms that tend to be a little bit closer in cadence is a really good way to indicate. Like right here, for example, we know this is an S sound.
See me shine,
or this right here.
shine, but
You can tell that even from a distance, like, okay, there's a lot of information happening right there. Let's just pinpoint that and maybe reduce it down. For those, they're not really too problematic because we are running a de-esser on the actual vocal chain. We're using both SU2, as you can see right here, and we are using Sibilance, which is a Waves plugin, to really tame that harshness. If I play it back, you can see how much work it's actually doing on the vocal.
But they still acting shady. New girl and she foreign. She chose me because I'm chosen. By the time this thing is over, I'm Jersey legend like Lauren.
So you can tell SU2 isn't doing a ton of the actual vocal fixing. It's at 36% for the mix. So it's doing a very gentle, kind of rounding off that signal. The real heavy hitter is the Sibilance plugin by Waves. It's doing a lot of the work in order to reduce some of those harsh frequencies down and make sure that the mix overall sounds more balanced, which is really important. So I usually do this for every vocal chain and every vocal group that I have, because once you sum different audio to a group, it's really important to then tackle the frequencies again to just make sure you can clean it up as much as you can. I think there's a couple other effects that I'm running on here as well, reducing a little bit of the areas down in the voice, as well as up here, doing a little bit of carving. I'm boosting up some of the mids and boosting up some of the low mids in here. But this is generally my go-to lead vocal template that I use a lot of times, because it does reduce a lot of that sibilance down and gives it a good amount of brightness and maintaining that airiness, which is important. So another way to tackle harsh frequencies and sibilance is actually highlighting the waveform, double-clicking on it, and reducing that specific waveform's volume. So you can see right here, if I drop this view down, you can actually check and double see what exactly I am doing. Right here, you can see if we start at 0 dB, you can see that's really, really harsh, really, really loud. We can actually turn that down by a good amount. And rather than having to use the utility, we can use that automatic gain reduction for the clip, making it a lot easier and a lot more transparent for us.
Try to tell me I'm crazy.
So I personally would only really recommend doing that for breaths. So any breaths right here, you can see that are maybe a bit too loud, like this breath in particular.
Yeah.
Might be want to turn that down, so turn it down by like, let's say 6 dB.
Yeah.
Just so it's a little bit more gradual and not super loud in our ears, because when we are compressing this vocal, all those breaths are going to be relatively the same volume as that lead. So it's a good way to drop those down before they enter that compressor. Another way of doing it as well is just like cutting them completely and removing some of the breaths. Sometimes people will have a random mouth noise in their breath. So what I like to do is actual breath replacement. So I'll take a breath that sounds okay. It sounds more natural. You basically just use that as the breath replacement tool when I go later onto the track. So if there is a section I need to fix, I have one available that sounds good and I can use overall. And the third and final way, and the one I don't really suggest you use, is actually fading. So with Ableton, you can actually draw in pre-advanced fades right here. If we turn off our sibilance and turn off our utility, we can get and see how actually we are going to apply this effect. So let's just go and dive into the hook again of the track. This is with everything off.
Back then they try to tell me I'm crazy.
You can tell me that the tell is really, really harsh in the ears.
Try to tell me I'm
So rather than cutting the audio or adding in a utility, we can actually just apply a direct fade to the audio and now listen back to it one more time.
And they try to tell me I'm crazy.
So you can tell it's a little bit tamed. It definitely sounds a little bit nicer in the ears. One of the main reasons why I don't like doing this is because we do lose a bit of the transience of the T and the tell vocal, as you can tell right here.
They try to tell me I'm crazy.
It's losing that harshness if we add that fade.
They try to tell me I'm crazy.
It sounds a little bit like it's getting sidechained or ducked too much. So fades are really a good way if you are leading into any S's sounds are a lot better. Any T sounds that are more, you know, transient dense, you want to make sure that you're preserving those as much as you can. So a better way to fix those is definitely with volume automation or just clip gain adjustments. For fades, I would really only do it for S sounds. You can see, let's just try to find one right now. I think it's in the hook. We can do this one right here.
See me shine, but they shine, but they shine, but
So rather than having to cut all this, we're actually going to make a small cut right there and then slightly drag that down and then clip this clip edge to make sure it's a little bit smoother and play it back.
these days they see me shine, but they still.
So you can tell right there, it's like it's not as clean as we possibly could, but you can actually add in fades with each other on the same waveform and adjust the curve. So rather than it being super loud right here where the clips are kind of intersecting, you can now add a fade built in that's going to be a lot cleaner.
These days they see me shine, but they still acting shady.
And this is without the fade. Let me turn this back to what it was before.
Days they see me shine, but
This is with the fade. If we can undo it one more time.
days they see me shine, but they
So it's a little bit nicer. You can't really do a ton of control just because the clips are the exact same volume. One way to get around this is if you actually highlight that clip and turn this volume down, now you have a nice transition tool between the two, and that makes it a little bit more gradual.
They see me shine, but they still acting shady.
But overall, I don't really like doing this if it's in between of a phrase. It's a lot easier to use the utility and actually add in that volume automation to really tame that high end and harshness.